It is believed that the worst disaster involving migrants trying to cross the English Channel, at least 27 people, including 5 children, and a child died off the coast of Calais in northern France Wednesday. This after a boat trying to reach Britain capsized in the frigid waters. 2 migrants who survived are being treated for hypothermia. French President Emmanuel Macron and British Prime Minister Boris Johnson say they will step up efforts to prevent migrants from making these dangerous crossings. CNN's Jim Bitterman is following developments. He joins us now live from Paris. So, Jim, a distressing story. What is the latest on what exactly happened, and what are the UK and France saying about this?
Well, they're basically accusing each other of responsibility in this affair. This is, as you said, one of the worst incidents of this kind in the English Channel, if not the worst. They revised the death toll downward slightly overnight to 27. It doesn't make it any better. And both sides are accusing the other of having some responsibility to bear. The British suggested that perhaps they should have some kind of joint patrols along the French coast. The French are saying that the British must step up their efforts and change their policies to make it less attractive for migrants to try this crossing. In terms of practicality, after that conversation between Boris Johnson and Emmanuel Macron during the night last night, the Foreign Minister of France and the Home Secretary of Britain are going to talk today to sort of see what they can do in a practical sense to stop this flow. Now, in terms of details, they've arrested a 5th person for responsibility in creating the atmosphere for these migrants to come across. The person that was arrested was a German, and apparently the rubber raft that sank was of German manufacture, German sale. So in fact, there's some connection there to Germany. And President Macron said that he wants to widen out the conversation about this to his European partners, because he believes they bear some responsibility in these criminal gangs that are used to the migrants are falling victim to, and who are the passeurs who who send the migrants out into the rather dangerous conditions out into the Channel, and we've seen the result of that. Rosemary?
Yeah, just absolutely horrendous. Jim Bitterman joining us live from Paris. Many thanks. And joining us now from London is Tahid Pasha, Senior Coordinator at the International Organization for Migration. Thank you so much for talking with us. 27 people confirmed dead in this tragedy, 5 women and a little girl included in the dead in this attempted crossing of the English Channel in these freezing temperatures. And the leaders of Britain and France appear to be blaming each other. Who do you blame for this?
This is not about 2 countries and a channel, but a larger universal issue. We had, since 2014, our records started counting 45,000 deaths across the world. Last year alone, 4,500 people died across the world. And Rosemary, last week, 75 people died leaving Libya on a boat in the Mediterranean. That wasn't reported as much as this one was. And this just shows the global scale of the problem, and we really have to ensure that we can take a universal cooperative response.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because French President Emmanuel Macron says he will not let the English Channel become a graveyard, and UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson says he's shocked and appalled and wants to step up efforts to deal with this migrant crisis. He and Macron have agreed to put in place joint efforts to prevent migrant crossings. What do you think that means exactly? So they'll stop these crossings, but that doesn't solve this problem, does it?
Not at all. Not at all. A disproportionate use of barriers, putting up the borders, is not going to solve this problem on its own. What we need to undermine the smugglers' business model by getting more adequate, safe, legal routes and pathways. Let's bear in mind the global context here. There are up to 26 million refugees in the world. The vast majority, Rosemary, are living and staying in countries neighboring the countries that they left. Very few make it across to Western countries like the UK and France. And so what we need is we need to have countries like the UK and France really stepping up their protection regimes to allow and facilitate those who are entitled to protection to be able to gain entry.
So, what is the situation for many of these migrants and asylum seekers on the ground, and how many people are we talking about here?
So, if we look at the nationalities of those who died tragically yesterday, the majority were Iraqis and Iranians, with, I believe, some Somali nationals. So, that immediately points to you that these are people who are fleeing countries of persecution. And so, what we need to do is we need to be working to ensure that those people who are fleeing those countries can get access to resettlement regimes, that they can get access to humanitarian pathways that allow them to stay in these countries. And another thing to bear in mind, some of them were families, as you said, women and children. Um, Family reunification is very important. We should not be closing down family reunification channels. We should be opening them up.
And what about these people who are responsible for putting the migrants on these boats? What should happen to them?
Well, they are part of a dangerous criminal network where they are trafficking people. Those who are using smugglers have no option but to use smugglers, and that's where the business model comes from. If we can take that away from them, and if we can try and open up these legal avenues, then that has to be the answer. So states have to be able to have a proportionate response where they are ensuring that these pathways are opened up. As I said, we have those avenues to do that. And the numbers of people who are seeking protection in the UK is actually quite small. The peak was in 2012. We've had very low numbers since then. 16,000 people got protection and access to asylum in the UK last year. If you compare that to the global response, where we have up to 3 million Afghans in Pakistan and Iran alone, then that puts it into proportion.